Welcome to our live webinar, Ask ProVisor. This is transparent talks for real estate professionals. My name is James Mercado. I'm the president of ProVisor. I've been working in the real estate industry since the 1990s, so I've been doing this a little bit. And today, the question people ask us is, why are we doing this? I wanted to share with you. Our whole point in having this live webinar is we want to help our real estate agents differentiate themselves and bring value through knowledge, so you are better equipped to serve your clients and be perceived and classified as an expert in the real estate industry. To do that, we are going to be bringing experts in specific parts of this industry that will help bring value to you when you're out in the field working with clients. So today, you're going to have questions that are going to come up. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat. If you would like to make them anonymous questions, you can email them to me at james@provisor.com, and we will read the questions anonymously for our special guest today. So today, my guest, his name is Brian. He is a certified and licensed real estate appraiser. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. He's also licensed to do FHA appraisals and VA. So get those questions ready, because we know there's a lot of myths around VA loans, but I'll tell you, the data does not support the myths. We do lots of VA loans here at ProVisor, so I want to just encourage you, if you got questions, today is the day. Brian is an expert in this field. We're excited to have him here, and we're going to jump right in. So welcome, Brian. So first question we have from one of our real estate agents is this: when the lender is asking for a reconsideration of value, share with our real estate agent audience, Brian, on how they should best focus their search to obtain new comps so they can be used and those comps actually matter.
Well, I always tell agents, first of all, don't use any actives.
No actives.
No actives.
Okay.
I don't know any lender, VA, any lender that even considers listings. In fact, none of my reports have listings in them.
Okay.
And I always just tell them, make sure that your comps are basically comparable. Like if it's a ranch home, make them ranch homes. If it's 2 stories, make it 2 stories. You know, sometimes I get reconsiderations and it's a 2-story home, but I get ranch homes sent back to me. Those aren't really comparables.
Got it.
You know, it's just, you know, ranch homes are cost more to build, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So you don't want to do that. And you want to make sure they're kind of in the same vicinity. Usually we're only allowed to go out about a mile is our criteria.
Okay.
But I've been telling real estate agents too, I've been kind of cheating a little bit and going like maybe same school district.
Sure.
You know, because you could make an argument saying, yeah, that would draw in the same type of buyer.
Is it a little bit more challenging right now, Brian, because there seems, you know, we have a low anemic amount of inventory right now. So there's not a lot of houses for sale. Not a lot of houses have sold because there's not a lot of houses for sale. How is that stretching you as an appraiser to find sold comps? Because there's just, the business is down right now.
Yeah, like I said, I had to get kind of creative and, you know, go with, like I said, you know, same school district.
Okay.
You know, if it's a lakefront property, then a similar type of lake, you know.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that.
So if I've got a really nice ranch house that I need a reconsideration of value on, and the house across the street is a dome home, probably not a good comparable.
No.
No dome homes, everybody. Okay. Awesome. All right. Next question. How does an appraiser pick comparable properties to be used? The reason we're asking is we want to make sure that we're helping the real estate agent when they're doing their market analysis and they're getting ready to list the property, that they have the right comparables plugged into their market analysis so they list it at the right price, so there's not any challenges later down the road. Obviously, everybody wants top dollar for their house, but we also need to make sure that that market analysis is subject to the data that goes in there, and that data is putting the right properties in there. Can you just speak to that in general for our realtors?
Yeah, like kind of goes a little bit off the last one. You know, make sure there's similar style homes. You know, like ranch home, two-story, two-story.
What if they're both ranch homes, but one's a third of an acre and the other's 5 acres? Can they use that? Let's say the houses are still pretty similar, but the acreage is not.
I would say no, because you're probably not going to attract the same buyer for a 5-acre property as you are for a 1/3 acre,
Okay.
if that makes sense. I'm not saying you can't use it, but there's going to be a big difference in land value.
Okay.
You know, so I don't want to say you can't. Like I said, I don't want to say you can't, but
Not preferred.
It's not preferred.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we're trying to get as similar as possible.
You know, apples to apples.
Yeah.
Is what you're looking for, and try to make them all this, like, similar square footage above grade. You know,
Speak to the above grade, because, you know, we hear lots of times that, hey, there's 3 bedrooms in the basement and they have a legal window in there, so those count. Speak to that, Paul, wait.
yeah. So the above grade, obviously, it's any floor completely above the ground, and that's where you get your value, is the above grade square footage. Basement, the thing with the basement finish is it's so opinionated, I want to say.
Okay.
Some people don't care if their basement is finished. Some people do. Some people want to finish it their own way. You know, so I mean, there is a lot of value and stuff like that in finished basement, but not as much as above grade.
So if I have 2 bedrooms above grade and a bath and a half above grade, and I buy this house, and then I put downstairs a beautiful bougie master suite down there, you know, it's awesome. So I got a bedroom down there. I've got a full ensuite down there. Can I now technically, can I list this house as a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 2.5 bath? Because 2 bedrooms are above grade and my master suite now is in the basement.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, because it's a legal bedroom.
Okay.
Legal bath. Yeah, that's the difference with like this. That's like real estate and appraisal. Real estate, yeah, it's a legal bedroom. You can list it as a 3-bedroom. What'd you say, 3.5 bath or 2.5 bath? Yeah, you can list it that way, but it's gonna when we do our grid, it's gonna come across as 2-bedroom. And then
So let's talk about that. So this is where it gets a little confusing. So yes, it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. But when you actually put it into the appraisal format, you just said that it comes across as a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath house.
above grade.
Above grade.
Then we will put the bedroom in the basement finish.
And then you give it less value
It
than,
will come in with less value.
and why is that?
You can kind of show that on the market, you know. We do a lot of our stuff with, like, paired sales analysis, they call it.
Okay.
So that's where basically say you have 2 houses that are identical. And if one thing is different, like say you have a 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch, and the neighbor's house is 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch.
Okay.
Same square footage, 1,500 square feet. We'll say
Yeah.
about one's 3-car garage, one's a 2-car garage.
Correct.
So everything's the same but the garage.
Okay.
The difference in what the one sold for is the value of that garage. They call that pair sales analysis.
Got it.
Say one sold for 200,000, one sold for 210,000. So you can sit there and say, well, the market response was 10 grand for that garage.
Got it.
So your adjustment would be 10 grand.
Even though maybe it cost them 40 grand to build the garage.
Exactly. We go off of what the market response is, like, what does the market say? So, you know, a lot of people don't, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but it's not typical to have your master suite and everything in the basement. Most people have it on the main level. So if you, I could probably show, I'd be able to show you on the market that the bedrooms in the basement really aren't as
So let me ask this question.
like a selling point, I guess.
Maybe that's a little bit of an extreme example. So here's the deal. They finish out their house and they put in gold toilets. When you go to appraise that house and they have flown in from Italy the best marble that money can buy for the flooring. Instead of going to, Home Depot or one of the, Lowe's or Menards, and they just get tile flooring and put in, and they get, just normal Kohler toilets or Bemis toilets in there. They had high-end Italian marble, and they had gold toilets in the normal subdivision of a 2,500 square foot house. And they say, hey, I spent $50,000 on this flooring. You're not giving them $50,000 for that flooring, are you?
No, because I would, sometimes you got to look at it as a buyer. Like if you're actually going to buy the house, like, would you pay the extra 50 grand just because it has that flooring? And I could probably, and then, because it would go into the quality of the home. So there could be an adjustment there, but you would have to look at different homes like so I would look at maybe some upgraded homes compared to some homes that weren't upgraded and maybe see if there's a quality adjustment there.
So there might be an adjustment.
There might be an
but it's not gonna be
adjustment.
dollar for dollar.
No, usually like people say with like kitchens, people put 70, 80 grand in a kitchen, but you usually don't get dollar for dollar back on your investment. I say usually because you don't know.
Well, it all depends on location, property,
Yeah, I mean,
subdivision.
You might get
school
more.
districts.
Yeah,
Right.
you might not,
So the real estate agent's got to be careful that sometimes people will over improve their house, and that's where it
definitely
can inflate the value, and it's
Yeah.
just not going to come in when you do the appraisal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go to our next question. This is a good question. How do you guys or girls, appraisers, calculate your adjustments when you're dealing with square footage, bedroom, bathroom count? Like, we kind of dovetails off the last question. How do you calculate that? Like, what do you guys do? Just you have a dartboard in the basement, throw a dart, say, oh, it's 500 square feet, or how do you do that? Or
So
$200 or whatever.
So it's kind of a lot of times it's like your bedroom count, your bathroom count. A lot of times that's just kind of like a what do you want to say, like a standard.
Yeah.
You almost have a standard adjustment for that, except for like condos.
Yeah.
Condos that's a whole different.
That's another beast. We're going to talk about condos next week.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Stay tuned next week because we're going to unleash the beast of the condo situation.
Yeah, condos are different.
Next month, not next week, next month.
And so bedroom and bathroom count are usually pretty a standard adjustment. Yeah, usually it's $3,000 to $5,000.
So the neighbor's house that just sold across the street is 1,840 square feet, but my house, I'm 2,000. Talk to me about how you calculate that.
So
They're both 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses.
yeah, so you can kind of do, like I said, with the going off the last question with the paired sales analysis, you can kind of see how the market is saying, okay, well, we'd pay an extra maybe 10 grand for that home, or we pay an extra 5 grand. So you would.
How do you find the market on that? You just continue looking for more sales?
You look for more sales, and sometimes sometimes you can actually kind of see when after you start doing some adjustments, you can almost see the adjustment.
Okay.
So you might, you might say, oh yeah, that looks about like $50. So you put $50 in there. And how I know I kind of did everything right is at the bottom of the appraisal report, all the adjusted values. If they all come in pretty similar,
Yeah.
then you got your calculations right. Because sometimes people are like, well, I know it costs $200 a square foot to build my house. Well, that doesn't always mean that's going to be the adjustment.
Got it.
Because like I said, it depends on what sometimes it's 50, sometimes it might be 250, sometimes.
Let's talk to the bottom here, because that goes right into the question that another real estate agent asked. On each comparable, the bottom shows the adjusted value, which you're talking about, for each house. The math appears that the final value of the subject house is not an average of all comparables. Is there a different formula? Or how do you come up with that number? And then the next question, and I come back to this as well, is what is considered too large of an adjustment?
They're really too large an adjustment. That goes off what the basically a lender or underwriter, I don't think there is such thing as a too big of an adjustment.
Okay. So you don't have
So
a benchmark to say we need to be within 20% or?
No, it used to be, you couldn't be over like 15%, I think it was. I mean, I've done it where I've got 80% adjustments. It just depends on, a lot of people will say, well, if it's 80% adjustment, then it's not really comparable.
Well, that's the next question they said. Do you just need to pick a new comparable? That's what it says when they asked.
Oh, okay.
Do we just pick another comparable if it's too large of an adjustment? And how large is too large?
But, sometimes your pool's limited. But if you have a house, say you have, your neighbor's house sold, and it's, say, similar square footage, but less condition, smaller yard, stuff like that, you still want to use that because it's your neighbor's house.
Mhm.
But then you use the adjustments. Yeah, so the adjustments might be a little high, but at least you're showing like this house sold for this amount here in this condition. So why couldn't this house sell in this condition for
Mhm.
the actual price it did?
Sometimes it seems like it's pretty subjective, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only time where my opinion kind of comes in is with quality and condition.
Okay.
It's not really my opinion, but it's more like, can you tell this house has been updated? Like for instance, say someone updated a house and they put granite countertops in, nice floor, blah, blah, blah. And then you have another person updated, they just put like your solid countertops, an average floor. So you can kind of say, well, yeah, this one was actually updated nicer with higher quality. So then you can make an adjustment on that.
Okay.
But with coming up with the final value, first thing you're told in an appraisal, you never average. You're basically not allowed to average.
Okay, that's good to know. So when you have 3 or 4 comps, you do not average those prices. Each one stands on its own and goes right down the grid. Where the adjustments, fireplace, no fireplace, powder room, no powder room, 3-car garage, 2-car garage, and each one stands on its own. That's good to know. Do not average comps, can't do that.
So some people, I've seen some appraisers just kind of look at all 4 and kind of almost throw a dart. But
that's why we have you on here, Brian, because you have an excellent reputation, an outstanding resume, and everyone says your appraisals are airtight. So that's why we wanted you speaking today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So what I do is, if I have 4 comparables, I'll find out which one I think is good, like the most comparable. Sometimes I use net adjustment, sometimes I use the gross adjustment.
What's the difference between net and gross? I want the real estate agents to understand that, because when they're talking to the lender who's communicating from the underwriter who's got it from your data, so your data goes to that underwriter talks to the processor, that processor talks to the LO, that LO talks to the realtor. We have the telephone game, we don't know what we're talking about by the time it gets to the real estate.
No problem. So the net adjustment is basically the difference between your adjusted value and what the purchase price of the comp was. So if the purchase price was 200,000 and the adjusted value is 210, that's that 10,000 would be the net. The gross is all the basically the complete percentage of all the adjustments.
Okay. So you can have a gross adjustment of 80%, but a net adjustment of 10%.
Yeah.
Because you may say, hey, this house has got a fireplace, and I'll make up the numbers, but that's worth 10,000. So that's a gross adjustment, but the same house also doesn't have the powder room. So that's a negative 8,000. So now your net adjustment's $2,000, but by the time you add this all up, there's still a lot of changes. So then is there a point where you say, I need to get a different comp?
There are some points.
Okay.
Especially usually it's when on the bottom line, sometimes you have those flyers or outliers. Like when you do all your adjustments and say 4 out of the 6 comparables come in real tight, and 2 are kind of out there. You're kind of like, well, maybe those were sides. I'll put them off to the side.
Okay. Let's switch gears to new construction. Okay. So for the real estate agents out there that work a lot in new construction, this is something that you're going to be listening to here. So can you explain how the fair market value of a new build can come in under contract and under the cost approach value?
Yeah, that one's so. I don't have this happen very often, to be honest, but
does that go back to you can build a house, but you put gold
improvement?
toilets in and, Italian marble in, and your neighborhood doesn't call for gold toilets?
Exactly. It's basic. That's kind of what it is. It's upgrades.
Okay.
What type of upgrades each house has?
Okay.
Because sometimes, with all these big housing developments, some houses might have not as many upgrades.
Yeah.
And if you don't.
So they kind of give you the bare bones model, and then all of a sudden is, I would like a toilet. Well, that's a little extra.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, obviously, but so that stuff, those upgrades. So what happens? Those come through what we call change orders. So just because the client wants to upgrade all this stuff and does these change orders and modifies the sale price doesn't guarantee that value is going to come in.
No,
So,
doesn't, and usually with the upgrades, like if they're upgrading like big step, like solid countertops to granite,
mhm,
that could be a quality adjustment. I mean, there are adjustments there, but sometimes you got to look and see, this house sold for 100,000, this sold for 100,000, this one had all the upgrades, this one didn't. So,
oh,
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're like, wow, I mean, well, the market's telling me that those upgrades really didn't mean anything.
got it.
Usually that doesn't happen with new construction because usually, they usually sell for the price that because obviously the builder's not going to take a hit,
Right.
We're
We're seeing more language come in right now from the builder to protect himself that, if the appraisal does not meet, you're responsible to pay this money in cash.
Mhm.
And so many times the borrower thinks that, well, yeah, my contract says this, it should be worth that because that's what I'm paying for it. But that's not the case you're telling me.
Not all the time. No, 'cause like I said, I mean, some of the upgrades might be personal preference too. So, so some people might not look at it the same when they're buying. Like, well, I'm not going to pay an extra 10 grand for that.
And not everybody wants a gold toilet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's talk about market trends because that's what we're kind of discussing right here. So any insight from your professional opinion that you can provide us with the local real estate market trends that can impact property values? What are you seeing with the trend right now and what it's doing to values as rates have gone up? All right. Inventory still seems pretty low. What's that doing to property values? Because historically, when rates go up, property values usually calm down or came down a little bit. Are you seeing that the case or not really?
No, I thought it would,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
because everyone, remembers the last couple of years how the bidding wars happened.
Mhm.
And I was hoping that would end, but it really didn't. I mean, I figured with these interest rates going up,
Yeah.
your buying power went down, but we still not as much.
Okay.
The bidding wars aren't as much, but they're still out there. It's
Okay.
So I haven't seen it. I thought there would be a drop, but I haven't seen it.
If I'm a real estate agent and I'm thinking, okay, I'm listing this property and I did my market analysis, and let's just say it's the property that just doesn't sell right away for whatever reason, because, whatever reason. When should they be looking to maybe refresh their market analysis by pulling new comparables that have sold in the marketplace? Is that something they should review at 60 days, 90 days, 120 days? And the subsequent question as well, Brian, is how old of data do you pull for your appraisal? Do you go back? How far do you go back looking at comps? Do you go back 3 years or 2 years when they say, hey, the house across the street sold 2 years ago for this. My house is worth more than that. And it's 2 years later. So how often should the realtor go back and revisit their comps that they use in their market analysis? And how far back can you go when you're doing an appraiser? Those two questions.
So if I was a real estate, I'd try to go back probably every month.
Yeah, you'd revisit it?
Yeah, because especially the way the market has been, how, it was really climbing really quick.
Yes.
And we realistically are only allowed to go back 12 months. That's as far as we're allowed to go back,
Okay.
unless it's a unique property or something where they allow you to go back further. Usually I try to stay within the last 6 months, but sometimes you don't have enough comparables, so you go back. And so I'll go back a year, but.
So what happens when you got that perfect property that's 14 months out? No go?
Well, you can put it in there.
Yeah.
But usually it depends on the lender.
Okay.
Basically, as long as you explain yourself, like
Okay.
why you used it, they're fine with it.
Unless there's 6 houses that sold in the last 6 months that are across the street,
Exactly.
the neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Then you're not getting
Yeah. Usually most times when I have to go back over a year is that I have to try to bracket something. Because usually
Okay.
a lot of lenders want you to bracket.
What does that mean, bracket something?
Well, so usually lenders want you to have a house that's, has a larger or at least one with a larger lot, one with a smaller lot. One that's older, one that's younger in age. One with more square footage, one with less square footage. So they want kind of everything, because if you don't bracket it, like say, I can't find anything with 5 bedrooms. Sometimes it comes across, I think, to the lenders, that's an over improvement.
Mhm.
So you kind of got to show that there are 5-bedroom homes in this area, but
Mhm.
maybe they just haven't sold in the last year. So I'll go back a little further just to find a 5-bedroom home to say, hey, they are in the area. They just, it's just not
Okay.
very typical.
So it's just a feel good thing. So the underwriters say, hey, there's 5-bedroom houses
Yeah.
here. These people just lived here for the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So here's something that I'd like you to dig into your experience. What are some of the common pitfalls or misconceptions that realtors have regarding appraisals?
Well, one thing is you're allowed to talk to the appraiser.
Okay, so they can talk to you.
You just can't talk values.
Okay, so the law says they can talk, just not value.
Yeah.
That's a misunderstanding, I think, is out there. It's like, oh my gosh, you're the boogeyman. We can't talk to you till the order is over with.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then, right? So we could talk to you. We just cannot talk value or suggest value, anything of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, you can share any information you want. All the updates.
Is that helpful to you? Do you
Yeah.
want that information as an
I do.
appraiser?
I want all the information I can get because it just makes my job easier.
Like, and you want them to like if they have anything in writing, like, hey, here's the list, here's my Breyer spreadsheet for the addition they put on. Would that help?
Yeah, I mean, anything helps.
The more data, the better.
Yeah, it just makes it easier.
Okay.
And like I said, you can give I know some appraisers don't like it, but you can share. I don't mind when a real estate agent gives me comps because at least I know where they're coming from.
Okay.
I might not use them.
Mhm.
But at least I can say, well, okay, I can see where they got their listing from. They use this kind of stuff. I might use them, I might not. And it's like, but I tell
Do you encourage them to provide that data to you, like, so they know who you are when you're going out there and you're walking the property? It's okay for them to say, hey, I just want to get you some additional data, some supporting data.
Yeah, that doesn't bother. I know there's some people out there that there are some appraisers that kind of, I don't know.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah, don't talk to me, or it's on. I don't know if they get like offended.
Okay.
If you give them, I don't know. I don't understand. I seriously.
But at the end of the day, it's not the law. They can talk to you. They just can't induce you in value or speak money.
They can't speak them.
But they can provide you with lots of
any information they want.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know. Remember that when you're out in the field, meet the appraiser and just share with them as much information. Because we know the real estate agent knows when they go to list that house, that buyer is proud of their house and they're telling them about, listen, every single thing. My grandpa was an old world craftsman and he made the trim molding himself on his lathe.
Yeah, we have the best house.
Yes, right, exactly. So just share as much data as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What advice would you give a real estate agent when they are presenting the property to you for an appraisal, as far as just appearance goes? Like, I've seen some pictures where like the bedrooms are just a train wreck. There's dirty clothes all over the place. There's dishes, dirty dish. I know it doesn't really affect the value of the house, but does it affect your mindset when you're walking through a dirty house?
No, because
you're human. Come on, Brian.
I would say there's a difference between dirty and cluttered.
Okay.
Like,
speak to both of them.
Yeah, like everyone, you got to live in your house.
Yes.
Right. So, I know my house isn't perfect all the time. So if the bed's not made, there's clothes, that doesn't bother me. Dirty dish, but you can tell when people haven't like cleaned their house in years. You know what I mean? And one big thing too is like pet odors. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Is it?
Yeah. Because that would.
So can I just
keep
it simple? It's like kind of like going out on a first date. If I was the real estate agent, wouldn't I want to instruct the buyer? Yeah, obviously, if your bed's not made, it doesn't affect the value of your house. But you want to put together your best foot forward. So when the appraiser, who's the one determining the value at the end of the day, doesn't have to smell, look. It doesn't. You're still human, so it would still be wise to at least present the best product available.
Yeah, but I always tell people too, especially with purchases. Just let the seller know too. They're moving, they're packing. Don't worry. I know a lot of people don't want me to come in when there's boxes and stuff like that. It's like that. that's just part of the whole deal. So,
Okay.
but I understand on the seller end, they want their house to look, the best too. So,
All right. So let's talk a little bit about government loans for a minute. FHA loans. Realtors freak out. VA loans, they freak out even more. So we'll speak to those separately. Right?
Mhm.
What is something that you can suggest? Well, I guess cumulatively, what is something you can suggest for FHA and VA loans that the real estate agent can do to prepare the property, or to make sure that we're going to have less problems with the appraisal? Because the FHA loan is a great loan, Federal Housing Authority loan, and the VA loan is a fantastic loan for those who are protecting our nation, serve this country, so you and I can go to work every day and remain free. I love this. I love the Republic of the United States of America. And they're entitled to that. They own the land. They should own the land that they defend.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that we do everything we can for our veterans. So these two sectors, the FHA loan and the VA loan, what is something that they can do to better prepare the properties before you arrive?
So, one thing I just learned about 2 months ago, I want to say, in the state of Wisconsin, I really wanted to make sure I got this point across. In the state of Wisconsin, smoke detector is required on every level of every home, no matter what loan.
Really?
Yeah, I just kind of overlooked it. I didn't realize that was a state law. So that's a state law. Conventional loans, no matter what anymore, make sure you have a smoke detector on every level, including the basement.
Otherwise, you have to note it, right?
Yeah, and I'm doing all these, I got to keep going back to these houses just for a smoke detector, and it slows down everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
a good takeaway. Smoke detector's got to be in the basement.
Yep.
Okay.
Usually people have them on all the levels but the basement.
Right.
It has to be in the basement. And I usually tell people just put it by the furnace. That's usually the best place. But FHA and VA, I just make sure you have railings on all your stairs and all your peeling paint's taken care of.
Why is the peeling paint such a big deal? It seems like in Wisconsin, it's a pain in the butt, a little bit of chipping paint on something. And why do you got to flag that?
Because
how it annoys everybody. So tell us why, because I'm not sure. I'm sure it's not because you're mean.
No,
right?
It's especially anything built before 1978 would have lead-based paint.
All right.
So that's one of the reasons with the peeling paint.
But my objection is this house was built in 1994.
Yeah. So if there's peeling paint, the whatever's underneath, it's wood or whatever, it's not covered. FHA and VA, every exterior surface has to be covered by paint, sealant or something. So if you have peeling paint around your windows, your window pane's exposed to the elements. That's why they want you to.
Just from a rot standpoint?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's January. It's 20 below zero. We got peeling paint. What's the big deal? We'll just get it fixed in May, but obviously it is a big deal.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, it's not my, it's not me doing it. It's the FHA and VA. They're.
So is it safe to say that the appraiser, Brian, or Susie, whoever the appraisers, they don't make the rules. They just got to follow the rules.
Yeah.
So then you just say, hey, these are the rules. And we're like, what's the big deal? And hey, I don't make the rules. I just got to follow them. It's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because just for instance, I had to go yesterday, go 45 minutes out of my way just to go take a picture of a shed that had peeling paint.
God, it's crazy.
But it's just.
Is part of this subjective? Because what we're seeing some appraisers come in with a laundry list of stupid stuff, and some appraisers come in where it's yeah, that's no big deal.
All they tell, we just got to go off health, and if it's a risk factor.
Okay.
So obviously, if you have bare wires hanging out on your wall, that could be a risk factor. So you'd have to fix it. I just look at it as, like I said, railings, smoke detectors, and peeling paint. Those are the three big ones. I don't know what everyone. I don't know what other appraisers pick on, but those are the only big three that that I have to.
Okay, we got a live question.
Oh, okay.
Real estate agent says this: I want to know what makes a window bad and needing of repair when you're dealing with FHA and VA loans. What is it that you say makes the window to be a bad window and needs to be repaired?
I guess
Other than obviously broken glass, but
the only thing I could think of is a rotten window pane.
so it could be painted. They got a smeared paint on that sucker, but if the window pane is still rotted because of it's a window from 1982,
Yeah,
but they painted it so it looks
it
nice,
looks nice. Yeah,
but it's still rotted.
if it's rotted, they'd want that fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want it fixed or they want it fixed?
It would be the VA or FHA.
So
would want
it
fixed.
goes back to you don't make the rules, you just follow. Your
But
job.
that's the problem though too, though, is sometimes it's VA's gotten really vague, not VA, FHA has really gotten vague lately.
Yeah, we're noticing that.
So they leave it up to the appraiser, which I don't like. Because every appraiser's opinion is gonna be different.
Is this why? So this question is, this speaks to that. So tell me, yes, this is true. Why on an FHA loan will one appraiser mark the peeling paint an issue and another appraiser might not mark it on a different house when the house had some peeling paint as well? Is that because it's subjective or was it an error?
That might, usually peeling paint, I mean, that's pretty obvious and you know, I mean,
Yeah.
you see peeling paint.
It's peeling
It's
paint.
peeling paint. But there's sometimes though too, like, especially on like older homes, you know, built like 1900, you know, they'll paint the stone around the bottom.
Right.
If that paint is peeled off and there's nothing flaked, you don't have to flag that because it's stone.
Okay.
So it's
So
a
that's
different
good to know.
surface.
It could have been that.
Yeah, it's a different surface.
Some people will paint their foundation to make it look nice.
But if it's, as long as there's no like flakes, I won't, because it's stone, it's protected. I mean, you're not gonna,
Right.
it's not gonna rot or anything.
Unlike wood will rot,
Wood.
stone will not rot.
Yeah, metal, rust,
Okay.
you know, stuff like that. So sometimes.
That's super helpful right there. I want everybody to grasp that for a second. So if the foundation is painted and that's a stone and part of that paint is peeled, that's different than having a wood or a metal surface which can corrode or rust
Mhm.
or rot.
Yep.
Okay, that's super good to know. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. Another question for you. It's a good question, I think. Regarding adjustments,
Mhm.
do you take into account the view? Example, here are two houses in a subdivision. The houses are identical. One house backs up, and when you look out the back window, it looks into the neighbor's back window. And the other house looks into the preserve. Nobody behind it. Is there an adjustment made for that?
Sometimes.
Okay, talk to me about
So,
sometimes. This whole real estate industry is everything's sometimes.
yeah, because it's all, a lot of that stuff's opinions. You know what I mean? It's your personal preference.
Okay,
But what I would do on that is I would look at, first thing I would try to do is find what lots, like if a lot sold recently in the neighborhood that had that preserve in the backyard compared to a lot that sold in the subdivision. If there's a difference in those two lot prices, that's your adjustment.
yeah,
Or, like I said, I'm going to talk about that paired sales analysis a lot.
so typically, if the lot backs up to the preserve versus the lot backs up to another house, those lots always sell for more money. So what you're saying is, yeah, the houses could both be worth 200 grand, but the one lot was 50 grand, so now that's 250, and the other lot was 100 grand, so now it's 300,000. Same exact houses, but the dirt was more expensive when they bought the house.
Well, yeah, well, that's where you could find your adjustment. for that.
Got it. Okay.
What if, you know, if a lot sold in the preserve for 20,000 and one inside the subdivision sold for 15,000, I'd be like, wow, that's a $5,000 adjustment.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how but sometimes views are tricky because I've had people, I don't usually adjust for views because you can't, especially when you're looking at comparables, they'll say water view, right?
Mhm.
And you'll look on the map, you're like,
Where?
wow.
When it rains?
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, I've done it where you've seen, there would be a water view in the winter, you know, when the leaves fall, you can kind of like stand on a ladder,
Right.
you know? So views are tough that way
Okay.
because you don't know what exactly, you know, like I said, they'll say water view, but it's like, wow.
Got it.
So.
So you gotta get
I'm
out
not
there and
saying
check it out.
Yeah, I'm not saying there isn't an adjustment. It's just views are really tough to do.
Okay, so it's possible, not always probable.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. All right. All right. So another question for you. Property is adjacent, so the zoning's got to change somewhere. So you got commercial zoning and it changes somewhere to get the residential, and your house is the one that's right on the line. Does that affect it anyway? Because somebody's house has got to be on the edge of the zoning change.
So I would look at similar houses that sold with that kind of commercial there and see if that house sold for anything different than anything without it.
So if your house is the one right next to the gas station, and the gas station's lit up like, the 4th of July, so you have that light infringement into your property technically, does that adversely affect value? Or just like you bought the house next to the gas station?
Yeah, it could. But what's killing me these days is with such a limited amount of actives, people are just buying houses because I want
That's all
to,
there is,
I
right?
want to be in Brookfield.
Yeah.
I don't care where. So they might buy that house by a gas station because they just want to be in Brookfield. So we might not see an adjustment because they're like, we don't care what it costs. I want to be in Brookfield. So that's what kind of the last couple of years have been hurt. And I don't know if I'm making that clear. They just want to be in Brookfield. They don't care where it's at.
So since there's such a low inventory right now,
it's
we're seeing a lot of people just looking away at other things that normally historically, like, I'm not buying the house next to the gas station
railroad tracks.
or railroad tracks,
That's
right?
right one.
Yeah, that's a better example. Okay, so yeah, it could adversely affect value, but right now with such a low
Right now, it's
inventory-
so hard, but on my end, I do my research, and if I don't see anything, then I just have to make a comment just saying, yeah, it doesn't affect the marketability. But
What is something, when you're getting ready to go out to the property to appraise the property, what is something that you just wish you knew getting there before you got there? Other than like, they have a big dog that bites.
yeah, I would, I guess the thing that, I don't know.
Or
Really.
is everything just at your disposal with all the data that you pull from? You have everything you need.
Most of the time, the one thing I got to say though is like when a lot of, I should say a lot, some people when they list properties on MLS, they add the basement finish with the above grade finish.
Yes, we see that all the time.
Yeah, that is a killer.
Okay.
That hurts because sometimes when you do searches, that comp might not come up in your search because it's like, say you have a 1,200 square foot ranch with 500 in the basement, they add it for a 1,700 square foot home. Well, what if I was looking for a comparable, I'd probably go, I'm looking for 1,000 to 1,400 square foot.
So are you telling me that when they list the property, they need to make sure that they're differentiating below grade and above grade? Because
Yeah.
typically you say it's 1,700 and you get there, it's like, this is an 1,100 square foot house.
Exactly.
600 in the basement.
It's kind
It's
of
a different house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would suggest. That helps.
Okay. So just let you know, hey, X amount of square footage is in the basement. Because I know everybody's trying to be competitive and they're all trying to get their listings in front of buyers as fast as possible. But you as an appraiser, otherwise you got to redo your comp searches, right?
Yeah, like because sometimes, especially with purchases, sometimes I'll pull some comps before I go there because I have to take pictures of the comparables.
Oh, yeah, because you're out in the field.
So since I'm there, I'm gonna take pictures, but sometimes, and sometimes that makes it difficult. I mean, obviously, I back everything up with the assessor. I always check with the assessor anyways.
Okay.
But sometimes it's just nice, it's a little quicker, but I guess that's just a small complaint. But
Yeah.
it's not really that big of a deal.
Well, it just helps them because it is what you're going to find out when you get there. So
Yeah.
you might as well just tell me up front.
Yeah.
It may not be listed on the MLS that way, but at least let you know, hey, just so you know, 1,700 square feet, 600 of it's coming from the lower level.
Yeah,
Just be
it's just,
prepared for
it's
that.
just nicer. That
That's good to know. I didn't know that. So that's
Yeah.
super helpful. So for our real estate audience, just let you know the information. Over communicate what it's about. And so you can do the best job and get the most accurate value and get them what it is. It is
Yeah.
what it is. So.
And I always say too, no matter how minor the updates are,
Mhm.
you know,
Tell me, right?
say it. Yeah. because it does help a lot.
Yeah, well, especially if you're looking at quality, like if the cabinets are older, the carpet's older, or hey, we got new carpet in this house. That matters, right?
Yeah, it goes with your condition.
Okay.
Your condition, yeah. But I mean, some people do, they're like, oh, we changed all the light fixtures and we just changed all the plumbing fixtures. Well, it's just nice to, that does up, you're not gonna get dollar for dollar stuff like, but it's nice to know that you did some updates. Just so you can like communicate that with the lender though too.
All right, so we got a couple live questions and we'll be wrapping this up here. First one is regarding a condo, how helpful is it to have the questionnaire prior to inspection?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, everybody, you heard it live right here. If you can have that questionnaire prior to inspection, you're going to have a lot less headaches, right?
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard for us to get a hold of the condo, so because sometimes it's just a regular person.
Mhm.
They're working and stuff like that, and you got to call them up and say, how many are rented, how many are, and usually it's only like a 30-second conversation, but sometimes that questionnaire holds a report back 3 or 4 days.
Oh my.
Because that's usually my reports will be done that day, but I'm waiting for that questionnaire.
Yeah, and a lot of those people who fill those up for you, you're right, they're working, they got kids in soccer or whatever, and they'll get to it when they get to it.
Yep. So that's
Okay.
that question. That is.
So if the real estate agent does that due diligence up front, gets that questionnaire up front as part of their normal process, and they can provide that to the appraiser and the lender up front, that's going to make things go so much easier.
Oh yeah.
And faster.
Oh, it'll be faster.
And speed is important because time kills deals. We all
Mhm.
know that. All right, another question here. Can you explain why a bedroom below grade is counted differently than a bedroom above grade? Forget about the bougie master suite example that I gave everybody. Just a standard bedroom. Why is it counted differently?
One is I have trouble when I'm doing comps. I guess this is gonna be a little longer answer than what you're probably
That's okay.
expected, but
We're here to learn today.
yeah, so when I'm doing comparables and stuff like that, sometimes they list bedrooms in the basement, okay? But it's not an actual legal bedroom. I mean, it might have like the small window.
Yep.
Doesn't have the egress and stuff like that. So sometimes it's hard for me to do adjustments for bedrooms in the basement because I don't know if the bedroom in that comparable, is it a bedroom or is it just an office used as a bedroom?
Got it.
So I just usually group everything in just to finished square footage. So you still get credit for that bedroom. It's just kind of counted different.
Okay. Do you need a closet in there for it to be classified as a bedroom or not?
Technically, yeah, but I learned something a couple years ago too. A lot of the older homes, built 1900,
Yep.
so that they don't have closets in their bedrooms. And I found out that back then they used to tax more for closets than if you didn't have a closet.
I did not know that.
So that's why a lot of the older homes don't have closets. They all have dressers.
Okay.
But they're still, yeah, so they're still considered bedrooms and they don't have a closet.
Okay.
But
Underwriters don't like it. If there's no closet, they're like, that's an office. That ain't a bedroom.
so what I do though,
But technically, you're saying it could still be a bedroom.
it is.
Okay.
I go off the assessor. If the assessor says it's a bedroom, then I say it's a bedroom because they're getting assessed on that.
Are you in a position where, like, if the lender needs that data, will you provide that? The assessor provided that to you, or
Yeah,
is that
I mean, I can-
out of bounds?
No, you can, you just have to, I can just attach it to the report.
Okay, got it.
That's because it's just on a sheet. But another thing too with bedrooms, if you have to walk through one bedroom to get to another bedroom, that one bedroom is not considered a bedroom.
Okay, good to know. Make sure we make note of that. If you have to walk through a bedroom to get to the next bedroom, the one you're walking through is not a bedroom,
no.
even though you're using it as a bedroom and it
Yes.
has legal windows and everything, and it may have a closet.
Yeah.
It's still not a legal
It's not a
bedroom.
bedroom.
Okay. All righty. Well, Brian, this has been very helpful today. I want to say thank you for joining. On behalf of all of our real estate agents that are watching us today, I know they appreciate it. There's been a lot of good information here. You took time out of your schedule to come educate us. We appreciate that. I want to encourage everybody to stay tuned. Next month, we're going to be talking about the condos. As far as all the changes that have happened by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, We want to educate you and keep you up to speed, because as condos continue to grow, because housing prices rise, that's usually when people are going to go to condos to kind of get that price point down a little bit. There's a lot of changes that have taken place, and you want to be on top of that and ahead of the curve when you're working in the field, especially when it comes to condos. So invite your peers. Be ready with some challenging questions for condos. Do some research, and we're having an expert, a national expert next month to speak specifically to this. All they do is condos, so you won't want to miss this. Once again, my name is James Mercado. I'm the host of Ask ProVisor. We are an independent mortgage banking firm. We are here to answer any questions we can to help you. Feel free to check with us. We'll be more than glad to serve you in any capacity. Thanks again for coming on the show today, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, everybody, have a good day and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.